The night was dark, and the air was thick with the smell of blood. Kratos stood alone in the middle of a battlefield, his hands trembling as he gripped his blades. His eyes burned with rage, but deep inside, there was a pain he could never escape. He had fought countless battles, killed countless enemies, but this time was different. This time, the enemy was not just in front of him, it was inside him. Memories of his past haunted him like shadows, whispering of the mistakes he could never undo. Years ago, Kratos was not the warrior he is now. He was a young soldier, loyal to his king and his gods. But one fateful day, everything changed. Tricked by the god of war, Ares, Kratos was forced to commit an unspeakable act, a sin so great that it would stain his soul forever. In a moment of blind rage, he killed his own family. His wife, his daughter, their faces still haunted his dreams. The gods promised him power, but all they gave him was pain. Now, Kratos roamed the land, a ghost of his former self. His body was covered in the ashes of his dead family, a constant reminder of his guilt. He had become a weapon, a tool for the gods, but inside he was broken. Every battle he fought, every life he took, was a step deeper into the darkness. But tonight, something was different. Tonight, the fury inside him was stronger than ever. He could feel it rising, like a storm ready to explode. Kratos knew one thing for sure. This was not just another battle. This was the beginning of his revenge. Kratos walked through the ruins of an ancient temple, his footsteps echoing in the silence. The walls were covered in carvings of the gods, their faces cold and uncaring. He stopped in front of a large mural of Ares, the god who had destroyed his life. The image of Ares was fierce, his eyes filled with fire, but Kratos felt no fear. All he felt was anger. Anger that had been burning inside him for years. He raised his hand and touched the mural, his fingers tracing the lines of Ares' face. "You took everything from me," he whispered, his voice low and dangerous. As he stood there, memories flooded his mind. He remembered the day he first met Ares, the day he pledged his loyalty to the god of war. Ares had promised him victory, power, and glory. But it was all a lie. Kratos had been nothing more than a pawn in Ares' game, a tool to spread chaos and destruction. And when Kratos had served his purpose, Ares had abandoned him, leaving him to drown in his guilt and pain. Kratos clenched his fists, his nails digging into his palms. He had trusted the gods, but they had betrayed him. Now he would make them pay. The temple began to shake, and Kratos turned around, his blades ready. From the shadows emerged a group of warriors, their eyes glowing with a strange light. They were not ordinary soldiers. They were servants of the gods, sent to stop Kratos. But Kratos was not afraid. He had faced worse than this. With a roar, he charged at them, his blades cutting through the air like lightning. The battle was fierce, but Kratos fought with a fury that could not be stopped. Every strike, every scream was a step closer to his revenge. The warriors fell one by one, their bodies hitting the ground with a dull thud. Kratos stood in the middle of the chaos, his chest heaving, his blades dripping with blood. But even as the last enemy fell, he felt no satisfaction. The fight had only fueled his anger, reminding him of the endless battles he had fought for the gods. He looked down at his hands, stained with the blood of his enemies, and wondered how much more he would have to spill before he found peace. Kratos was known as the Ghost of Sparta, a name that struck fear into the hearts of men and gods alike. But to him, the name was a curse. It reminded him of the life he had lost, the family he had destroyed. He had become a monster, a creature of rage and violence, and there was no turning back. The gods had made him this way, and now they would suffer for it. Kratos sheathed his blades and walked out of the temple, his mind set on his next target, Zeus, the king of the gods. The journey ahead would not be easy. Zeus was powerful, more powerful than any enemy Kratos had ever faced. But Kratos was not afraid. He had nothing left to lose. His wife, his daughter, his home, all of it was gone. All he had now was his rage, and it was enough. As he walked into the night, the stars above seemed to mock him, their light cold and distant. But Kratos did not look up. His eyes were fixed on the horizon where his destiny awaited. Kratos traveled for days, crossing mountains and rivers. His mind focused on one goal: revenge. Along the way, he encountered villages destroyed by war, their people crying out for help. But Kratos did not stop. He had no time for mercy, no time for kindness. The world had shown him none, and he would show the world none in return. His heart was a stone, cold and unfeeling, and his path was paved with blood. One night, as he rested by a fire, an old man approached him. The man's face was wrinkled, and his eyes were filled with sadness. "I know who you are, Ghost of Sparta," the man said, his voice trembling. "I know what you seek. But be warned, the path of vengeance is a dangerous one. It will consume you, as it has consumed so many before you." Kratos looked at the man, his expression unchanged. "I am already consumed," he replied, his voice like thunder. "There is nothing left of me but rage." The old man sighed and walked away, leaving Kratos alone with his thoughts. For a moment, Kratos wondered if the man was right. Was he truly beyond redemption? Was there no way to escape the darkness that surrounded him? But then, he remembered the faces of his wife and daughter, their voices calling out to him in his dreams. No, he thought. There was no turning back. The gods had taken everything from him, and now he would take everything from them. Kratos reached the foot of a massive mountain, its peak hidden in the clouds. This was the home of the gods, a place no mortal dared to enter. But Kratos was no ordinary mortal. He was a weapon, forged in the fires of betrayal and pain, and he would not be stopped. As he began his climb, the air grew colder, and the wind howled like a beast. The mountain seemed alive, as if it was trying to push him back. But Kratos pressed on, his determination unshakable. Halfway up the mountain, Kratos was confronted by a giant creature, its body made of stone and its eyes glowing with fire. It was a guardian, placed there by the gods to protect their home. The creature roared, its voice shaking the ground, and charged at Kratos. The battle was fierce, the creature's strength unmatched. But Kratos was relentless. He dodged its attacks, his blades striking with precision, until finally the creature fell. As it crumbled to the ground, Kratos felt a surge of power. He was getting closer. At the top of the mountain, Kratos found a temple, its doors towering and ancient. He pushed them open, his heart pounding in his chest. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of incense, and the walls were covered in gold. At the end of the hall stood Zeus, the king of the gods, his eyes filled with both anger and fear. "You dare challenge me, mortal?" Zeus boomed, his voice echoing through the temple. Kratos stepped forward, his blades ready. "I am no mortal," he replied. "I am your reckoning." Zeus raised his hand, and lightning crackled around him, filling the temple with a blinding light. Kratos shielded his eyes, but he did not back down. He had come too far to be afraid. With a roar, Zeus hurled a bolt of lightning at Kratos, but Kratos dodged it. His movements swift and precise. He charged at Zeus, his blades slicing through the air, but Zeus was ready. The god of thunder struck Kratos with a powerful blow, sending him crashing into a wall. Kratos struggled to his feet, blood dripping from his mouth. He had faced many enemies, but none as powerful as Zeus. Yet, he refused to give up. He remembered the pain, the loss, the betrayal. All of it fueled his rage. With a scream, he launched himself at Zeus, his blades striking with all his might. The two titans clashed, their blows shaking the temple to its core. The walls cracked, and the ground trembled as the battle raged on. For a moment, it seemed as though Zeus would win. He was stronger, faster, and more powerful. But Kratos had something Zeus did not, a will that could not be broken. With one final desperate strike, Kratos plunged his blade into Zeus's chest. The god of thunder gasped, his eyes wide with shock. "You cannot defeat me," Zeus whispered, his voice weak. Kratos leaned in close, his eyes burning with fury. "I already have," he replied. Zeus fell to the ground, his body lifeless, and the temple grew silent. Kratos stood over him, his chest heaving, his hands still gripping his blades. He had done it. He had defeated the king of the gods. But as he looked down at Zeus's body, he felt no joy, no satisfaction. All he felt was emptiness. The rage that had driven him for so long was gone, leaving behind only a hollow shell. The temple began to collapse, the walls crumbling as the power of the gods faded. Kratos knew he had to leave, but he couldn't move. He was trapped, not by the falling stones, but by his own thoughts. What had he become? Was this truly what he wanted? He had sought revenge, but now that he had it, he felt no peace. The faces of his wife and daughter flashed before his eyes, their voices calling out to him. "You have become the monster you sought to destroy," they seemed to say. Kratos fell to his knees, his head bowed. He had spent his life fighting, killing, and destroying. But for what? The gods were gone, but so was everything else. He had lost himself in his quest for vengeance, and now there was nothing left. As the temple collapsed around him, Kratos closed his eyes and waited for the end. But deep inside, a small spark of hope remained. Maybe, just maybe, there was still a chance for redemption. The dust settled, and the temple was no more. Kratos emerged from the ruins, his body battered but alive. The sun was rising, its light breaking through the clouds. And for the first time in years, Kratos felt a sense of calm. The gods were gone, their reign of terror over. But Kratos knew his journey was not finished. He had spent his life seeking revenge. But now he had a new purpose: to find peace. As he walked away from the ruins, Kratos thought about the old man he had met on his journey. The man had warned him about the dangers of vengeance. And now Kratos understood. Revenge had consumed him, but it had not healed him. He realized that true strength was not in anger or violence, but in forgiveness and redemption. It was a hard lesson, but one he needed to learn. Kratos looked at the horizon where the sun was shining brightly. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, he felt hope. He had been a monster, a ghost, a weapon, but now he was something more. He was a man, flawed and broken, but still capable of change. With a deep breath, Kratos took his first step into the unknown, ready to face whatever came next. Kratos' journey was one of pain, rage, and redemption, showing us that even the darkest past can lead to a brighter future. No matter how deep the darkness, there is always a way to find light. Let Kratos' story remind us that change is possible and hope is never lost.